But Nick, how did you end up in the ISIS recruitment center?
Well, I mean, this what an intro, eh? I'm not religious either, so I wasn't looking for it. That's definitely one thing. Back then, I used to look for it. Now I don't. I'm less stupid than I was when I was much younger. I think the first thing I need to say here is that I was lucky enough to go to 103 countries in the last 16 years. Sri Lanka is definitely in the top five of my favorite country in the world. I love Sri Lanka, right? It's a great place. It's probably one of the capital of solo traveling. I've never seen that many women travel by themselves in one country. It's extremely safe. There's so many options. I'm not trying to dish Sri Lanka because when I wrote about this in the past and I published a few things, some people got really offended. It's not the case. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I love the country. But it's getting there start with a lot more of a nice story. I was backpacking alone back in the days, traveling, and anyone that travel and backpack alone in countries like that know that you're never really alone, right? You always end up with people. It's what we do, right?
Nick, sorry, I just gotta stop you for 1 second, just because I think your mic is rubbing against your shirt. We tested it out earlier, but it seems to be doing a little bit of rubbing. Is it possible to move a bit, or?
Well, let me hold it. Maybe it's gonna help. It's definitely okay. Yeah, let's try it.
All right, thanks, man.
No worries.
That's the thing about these online recordings, right? Like we try to make the studio as professional as possible, but there's just certain limitations.
Well, I'm in an hotel at SeaWorld, so that's another story. But
okay, we can touch on that a little later.
But yeah, so I was traveling, and for a month traveling with two girls from the Netherlands, and it was really, really, really fun. And the first thing you need to know about Sri Lanka is that the entire country is really fun. You can have a drink everywhere. There's a great night scene, except in the capital. In the capital, there's nothing going on. So we've been traveling for a month, and we're in Colombo, and we have no idea what to do. And we're just like, we want to go for a drink, and we're at the hostel, and we're just like, we want to go for a drink. Is there any place? And they're like, yeah, there's no place to go for a drink on a Monday night in Colombo randomly, So they end up telling us to go to the casino. So we go to the casino and we start playing. And literally, I think I spent $20, but he started treating us like we were the greatest people in the world, giving us free champagne and free drinks and everything. And the two girls are playing the game like they're behind me and they're pretending that they're with me, and it's getting really funny. And I end up winning at blackjack like $100, like nothing great. But then they're looking at me and they're like, Mr. Sinat, what do you want? Do you need anything? And we're like, well, it's a Monday night. We would have loved to dance and we would have loved to go out, but it's nothing we can do. And they're like, no, definitely, we can help you. So they gave us a limo, and we're just in the limo, and we're just going across town with the driver. And everywhere we stop, the driver say, "Stay in the car." And he goes out, and he go check the club, and he's like, "Yeah, that's not good, or that's good." And he does that for like 3-4 stops, and then he gets us under like a parking mall. It looks very sketchy, but he's like, "Yeah, this is okay." So he's like, "Hey, come on, get out." And the girls start getting out. They're like, no, you guys stay there. He's going to check it out. If he likes it, we're going to come back. So I go in, and I'm like, this is a little weird, but it's going to do. And so we get in the club. And the first red flag is half the club is Sri Lankan women dancing. And if there's one thing that you don't see in Sri Lanka is the local women in clubs or partying or anything like that. I've never seen that. I've been to Sri Lanka a bunch of times, never seen it. But we're like, okay, whatever. So we're there. The second red flag is that the beer that they're selling is Coronas. And you don't see Coronas in Sri Lanka. The only beer you see is Lions. But yeah, we're there, like, whatever. So we start drinking. And at one point, there's a guy that says, yeah, come drink in my booth. It's actually the owner. So we're in the booth. He's giving us free drinks. The girls are dancing. Everything is fine until the moment that I go to the bathroom. And then I come back, and then one of the girls looks like really stressed. But I'm having fun, so I'm not checking my phone. I'm doing my things. And At one point, one of the girl was with and the owner go dancing, and then she's like, "Look at your phone, Dick," and she's like, "We're in the ISIS recruitment center. We need to get the fuck out of here." And I'm
So
like,
ISIS recruitment centers have coronas?
"What the heck are you talking about? We're drinking and like whatever." It makes no sense, like, and she's like, "Well, you'll see." And then at one point, the owner of the place comes back and he's like, "Yeah, well, we don't see a lot of white people here. It's great to see that you guys are supporting the cause and you're not judging us." And I'm like, "What the heck?" And I'm like, "What's going on here?" So, the long story short is like we stick around and start talking about very extreme shit. And at one point, he just goes to the bathroom and we just got the fuck out of there. We just ran away and we left. But it was just a weird situation, right? Really weird.
What was some of the shit you guys talked about?
I mean, he was talking about Yemen. He was talking about, what's going on what's going on with like some of the things in Ethiopia, some of the stuff in Western Africa, just moral grounds, I was getting myself in trouble too because I was asking him a question about like, you're Muslim, yeah, but you're drinking, and he was like, yeah, nobody's perfect, and it made no sense, like it just didn't add up, You're supposed to be that extreme religious person, but you don't follow the basic rule of that religion, right? So.
Yeah, it kind of like points out all the hypocrisies also compared to what I read earlier, right? Like in the Quran, it points out the ways to live, and then these guys are just doing the complete opposite in some ways, right? They're saying that they're following the most strict rules, but they're not. They're just picking and choosing and doing what they want for their movement.
Yeah, I mean, he was telling me stories about the fact that, this type of activities was helping, raise money towards the cause and stuff like that. But then again, we were the only foreigners in that thing,
Oh shit! Did you buy a Corona?
Oh yeah, I bought a bunch of Coronas.
Oh man, so you unwittingly contributed to
100%. And like on the dance floor, you got those ladies with the like a bunch of bracelets, and like they just walk around and like they put the bracelet on your arm, and like the girls I was with we thought it was really, really funny at the beginning, so they kept like getting more and more and more and more, but like it just became very sketchy very quickly. But yeah.
Do you think almost everyone there was part of the movement? Because in Sri Lanka, the majority of people are Buddhist, right? That's the main religion there. And then it also just has talked about these women dancing around and everything. Doesn't sound very extremist or.
I can send you pictures. Like I took pictures that night, and the girl didn't look at all like they were Muslim girls at all. Like there was. It make absolutely no chance. So, there's two options there. Maybe they just created a story. They wanted to scare a bunch of foreigners, which I don't think so. I've been around, and or they just don't really give a shit about anything, and that's also a possibility.
And you wrote about this in the Lonely Planet?
I did. Yeah, I wrote about this. And I go more in depth into. Really the feeling and the steps and what happened, and I have photos and I show people what it looked like, but, if people would have told me, yeah, that looked like, a bordel, or that looked like a place where you just, you buy a girl for a night and you try to please yourself a little bit, I would have believed that right away, because, like it does look like that. It's just really funny that, at the time I was 29 years old, you got a 29 years old writer, a doctor, and a nurse from the Netherlands that look like the most naive person in the world end up in a place like that. Like we obviously, got a little too comfortable in Sri Lanka at that point, and we just didn't believe that there was anything like that happening anymore. But the bottom line is that there's still today a lot of shit happening in Colombo. There's still a lot of unrest. They had a really tough year with, inflation and COVID, and there was still a lot of unrest. If there's a place where something would happen in Sri Lanka that would probably be around the capital or the north, which, you know, are the more Muslim area of the country, unfortunately. And I'm saying that I love, like, you know, I love Muslim countries. I spent a lot of time in the Middle East. I spent a lot of time in Northern Africa. I'm not trying to hate on Muslim. I'm just saying, fortunately, there's a little bit of unrest.